Markets Now is brought to you by the 5-year anniversary of Brevant Seeds. Here's to 5 years of not just winning, but collecting one game-changing W after another. See all of our wins at brevant.com/wins.
And welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Roque with Scott Varilek of Kooima Varilek. And on a Friday, starting off seeing quite a bit of red on the board. But Scott, let's talk about cattle because we had several days here of new contract and all-time highs, and every break continues to get bought here, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thanks for having me. It's been quite the roller coaster, and Fridays, cattle traders, we're starting to get excited about them. I love my job, but these times are definitely something we've never seen before. Trying to manage how fast it's going straight up, and you get a day last week on a Thursday where we're limit down feeders, 925 lower feeders, and able to fight that back off. So if a limit down day was not going to roll this thing over, I think it just had the attitude, hey, we're strong, let's go. Funds didn't budge, found some buyers, so just always falls back to finding its power. All of these breaks have been bought and just pushed higher. Fundamentals have stayed strong. Cash was high during that limit down day, and they said, okay, I guess the game's still on. Let's go back to trading higher.
Yeah, and you and I have talked, as well as Brad, about how cash has been king. We are narrowing the futures discount to the cash, at least with the August. I haven't heard of much cash this week. Where are we at?
Cash is real slow. This week, I think there's a lot of interest from packers. They're all calling, they're looking, but not really getting that ball rolling yet. I think there's a lot of expectations that 250 can happen. But if 247 started to get out there, I would be shocked if guys started passing that as well. So, that could get some traction. So we're looking at higher prices all time, never been higher cash prices, kind of in the expectations. So yeah, the August futures has really climbed and closed this gap because, the South trades 237 last week, and now we're trading at 239 on the futures, in anticipation of the higher cash. So it's surprising to me that it's done it already here in the beginning of August, because when we look at August, where we're at in this time, and second week of August, we usually get this Labor Day buying. We get a push in the boxes, we get a push into cash. Packers are going to take some cattle and get some of that Labor Day supply, handled. And then the end of August, beginning of September is usually quite sluggish. That's where, okay, we start to see the boxes come back down. We see the cash break. So you've got some seasonals here, but seasonals have not really won over in this market here, as strong as it's been. So it surprised me that August was able to close the gap this quick. I thought it would maybe stay discount, but here we are. North is still premium, and we're on top of Southern Cash on the board now.
Right. Okay, so cash has pushed it, but you just mentioned box beef, and I think choice boxes are up like almost $15 for the week. You said that's Labor Day buying, but that's also Packer kill cuts, correct?
Yeah, both of those in tandem, I think have pushed those boxes higher. We usually see that boost right here. So we've seen the kill cuts. We had Packers running red ink, and we've got Labor Day. So those two reasons are why we are pushing these boxes higher, and rightfully so. I think the boxed beef demand, or just the overall demand for beef, has just been amazing. Domestically, for starters, we've got consumers that want beef in their diets. Okay, that's they're liking the product. We're getting a lot of good press, figuring out that beef is a healthy nutrition for you. And we knew that. We've known that all along. So, that's finally catching a lot of traction. You've got world demand. China's really diving into Australia. The amount of beef that they're getting is very impressive. So we've got that in tandem with this supply. So the supply side, we've talked about how this cow herd is the smallest it's been since whenever. I think it's been several years we've been expecting this pop. It happened a little bit later, but when we had 80-cent fat cattle and 470 boxes, I think that was the last straw for some of these cowboys raising cattle. They just said, I'm going to keep liquidating. This is not working. Not enough money was trickling down. So that's been the overall picture on the supply side. We've just liquidated. There's not enough profits in it. And this is the market fixing itself. That bet got made. for not enough profits in the cattle industry. And now we're at alarmingly tight levels here. We get a 98% on the cattle on feed report and 7% behind on kill for the year. Something's not adding up here. Those numbers are just not there. So now what are we going to do to fix this problem? We finally have huge profits in the cattle. So what do you do? I mean, it's the ongoing challenge. I mean, you have an older rancher, statistically getting a lot of age. How do you get a new guy interested in this? How do you have that kind of funds to say, I'm going to buy some of these, bred heifers to some of these cows at this record high price and think I'm going to make money? I mean, that's now the new struggle. And 7 to 8% interest on top of that. We're still not just immediately fixing this. I think everybody wanted to buy some heifers and breed them and push them, then make some money on them. Yeah, you probably make some money, but we still haven't fixed that. Who's going to calve them out? How are we going to have the long-term stability to get this supply going? So yes, I think there's some heifer retention happening. I think that it is. I just don't think it's happening as fast as it probably could to try to catch up with the market here.
Yeah. Is there one thing in your mind that could break the market? Everybody wants to know where the top is going to come, but what could cause that? Is that the reopening of the Mexican border? What would do it?
We've got all this leverage. I think leverage is the key. We've been able to ask for higher prices. Finally, it was several years of not really having a say in doing that and pushing it higher. So what would challenge the leverage that we have as cattle producers? And I would say, hey, we've got this tight supply. That's it. If you start to see some heifer retention and we get a Mexican border open up, I think that could be one factor that could do it. And it will happen ahead of when we actually get to the numbers. Once you see light at the end of the tunnel, the futures market will sniff that out. I keep saying that. None of us know where the high is. It's right. Amazing how high it's going, but that just could be one thing, and unfortunately, none of us have any ties to when that border is going to open. So I'm fearful that one of these days we'll be down significantly, and then only to find out after the fact that border is opening. So somebody's going to know that ahead of when the market is. So trying to protect yourself marketing is absolutely the biggest challenge that we have as cattle producers right now, and it's been tough. Everybody's well aware of the margin calls that it takes and how we're trying to protect this large investment we have. We've got a lot of money at risk, so that's a challenge. But short answer, yeah, Mexican border, I guess, on top of some heifer retention could be something that could do it.
Yeah, and the market has been so resilient. It's been fun to watch. The hog market feels like it's been getting some help from the cattle market rally. Obviously, we've been down the last couple of days here, but do you think that market, did we just hit resistance that we can't get through, and what would it take to get us through those levels?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty lackluster. Maybe it's just not catching the headlines. Nobody's really has any strong stance in the hogs because of what's going on in the cattle. So I don't know if they're rallying because of the cattle. I don't think that that's part of it, in my opinion. You got August hanging on here because the index is around here. We've got some tighter numbers right now. Packers are really interested, looking for some hogs, but I think the end is in sight. There's some more supply coming. We're getting some barns filled up. That's feeling better. And so I think the October holding this discount here is warranted. It usually does not close that gap real quick. Maybe in September it can think about it. Okay, maybe if this cash is still hanging on a little longer than we expected, we can put a little bit on. But I think the tighter supply is going to kind of go away, drift away, and we'll have to be back to talking about demand. And I don't know, in my opinion, I don't think pork's got the demand that they should have to follow this cattle rally. It hasn't done it. I mean, cattle have not been pulling the hogs up as high as they probably could. So not a real main trend here, just a little bit sideways choppy.
Okay. And the grains, we had a nice update yesterday with strong exports, but we have not seen follow through here this morning. And so, a lot of people saying, hey, maybe corn bottomed this week. What's your thoughts?
Well, demand is what the corn needs. I mean, low prices cure low prices, and we're definitely there. So that finally, it took a while before we saw some of those, larger exports and say, hey, this is finally something good we can talk about. But for me, it's the beginning of August. We still, are maybe ahead of when you can do that harvest low. I don't know if that demand, we would need, another weeks in a row of seeing some of this grain move, because, supply said that's how much we're going to raise. We are sitting on a record crop. It's going to come in, and we're going to hear some very large yields. I'm expecting that, and we're going to have, a little bit of, I think we got to get closer to harvest before we can put that low in. So we're kind of getting used to seeing a 3 in front of the corn. We're seeing it on the September futures here. We've been hearing about it in the cash prices already. D's corn dipped below it yesterday, able to get back above it here today and yesterday and today. So
Right.
I don't know if that's enough for me to say, hey, we've put in a low. I still think the funds are short. They're going to stay short. And, until we get further down the road and start hearing some of these yields.
Yeah. It feels like we might have the biggest yield numbers kind of programmed into the market. But like you said, it's hard to bottom this time of year. So, all right. Thanks so much, Scott Varilek with Kooima Varilek. That is Markets Now.
When you choose Brevant Seeds, you don't just win. You win so big, the very ground beneath your feet cries tears of joy. You win so big that second place feels like a participation trophy. You win so big, you might as well be harvesting buried treasure. Oh, sorry, just one more. When you choose Brevant Seeds, you don't just win. You hit the damn jackpot. Don't just win. Talk with your retailer or visit Brevant.com/jackpot to get started.